Let's look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, a couple of days ago, we talked about the high-flying, high-powered offense that the Lions are looking to put on the field next season with guys like DJ Chark, Jameson Williams, TJ Hockenson, DeAndre Swift, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the offensive line that they have, etc., etc. The Lions are posed to put on a prolific offense next season, but they're also looking to find a defensive identity. The Lions haven't really been a top defense in the NFL in almost a decade, with their last truly dominant defensive season coming in 2014 when they were led by Ndamukong Suh, Ziggy Ansah, DeAndre Levy, Darius Slay, and Glover Quinn. And after an up and down 2021 season where they held 7 opponents under 20 points with arguably practice squad and backup caliber players, there is a lot of hope and a lot of speculation about what this defense can accomplish after adding multiple defensive starters throughout the offseason in both free agency and the 2022 NFL Draft. And today we are going to talk about this defense. We're going to talk about all of the additions, we're going to talk about the front 7, we're going to talk about the secondary, and talk about why this very young, very inexperienced defense might shock a lot of people next year and turn out to be a top 15, maybe even a top 10 defense in the NFL. So with that being said, and without any further ado, let's get into taking a look at the Detroit Lions 2022 defense and potentially finding their defensive identity. Now, starting off, we're going to start with the front 7. But before we even get into that, I do want to preface again that although this defense had backup caliber players for a majority of the season, they held 7 different opponents to under 20 points scored, including the high-flying Arizona Cardinals offense and a couple of other teams like Lamar Jackson and the Ravens early in the season. Cleveland and Pittsburgh both were held under 20 points, as well as the Chicago Bears, I believe both times that they played. They held some pretty good weapons and some pretty good offenses to under 20 points, with their best pass rushers being Charles Harris and Julian Okwara, with playing a majority of the season with a secondary consisting of an undrafted free agent in the slot, a third-round player coming off of injury, as well as a converted safety on the boundary. They played with Alex Anzalone and a 4th-round linebacker as their starting linebackers a season ago, and they relied on rookies on the defensive line in Aleem McNeil and Levi Onwuzurike. Their safeties were Tracy Walker and Dean Marlowe, a career backup. On paper, this defense should not have accomplished anything, and yet they had some pretty solid performances all around last season. And after an offseason where they added 5 to 6 new starters on the defensive side of the ball, and they just upgraded depth all around the entire defense, there's a lot to look forward to this season. Now, getting into the front 7 this time, we are going to take a look at their pass rushers, because last year, Charles Harris put up 7.5 sacks, Julian Okwara put up 5 sacks, and Austin Bryant put up 4.5. Our defensive line coach helped all 3 of these players see career highs in sacks, pressures, quarterback hits, and just had career years in general, right? Charles Harris, the 1st-round bust from 2019, had 7.5 sacks and warranted $14 million contract over 2 seasons with the Detroit Lions. Julian Okwara, a former 3rd-round pick, had 5 sacks a season ago in a limited role, as well as coming away with 1 interception. He had a career season after being healthy. And Austin Bryant, under the 1st year of this defensive line coach, also had 4.5 sacks and played really well, playing the best football of his NFL career. In this season, the Lions are returning Romeo Okwara, who was on pace for 68 pressures a season ago, having 4 pressures a game last year for the Lions before he eventually went down with his season-ending injury, as well as adding Aiden Hutchinson in the NFL draft, who had 14 sacks a season ago in the Big Ten, finishing second in Heisman voting, bringing in James Houston IV, who had 16.5 sacks a season ago at Jackson State, as well as bringing in Josh Paschal, the interior defensive lineman, who had 5 sacks at Kentucky in his senior season and finished with 13 sacks in his collegiate career. The Lions put a huge emphasis and are returning a lot of really good pass rushing production for this season. They are 5 to 6 pass rushers deep on the edge as you consider Romeo Okwara and Aiden Hutchinson will likely start, and your backups consist of a 7.5 sack Charles Harris, a 5 sack Julian Okwara, and a 4.5 sack Austin Bryant, as well as a utility tool in James Houston who can either rush the passer or play off-ball linebacker like Julian Okwara. This front 7 has a lot of really good rotational pass rushers, and although I don't think they're going to have a Myles Garrett, although I don't think they're going to have a TJ Watt on this roster, they are going to have 4, 5, maybe even 6 players deep that can get you 5 to 6 sacks in the season. And at the end of the day, if you have 5 players that get you 5 sacks, that is pretty good production, and obviously Romeo Okwara and Aiden Hutchinson and probably even Charles Harris will get you more than 5 sacks. But if you have 5 to 6 players on your roster that each get you 5 to 6 sacks a season, that is a really, really good deep rotation that will allow the defensive line to stay healthy, allow the defensive line to stay fresh, and allow you to put constant pressure on the quarterback, forcing turnovers and forcing mistakes from the opposing offenses. Starting on the interior defensive line, you have some really good young talent. Michael Brockers does not fit the young part, but he is a very good leader on the interior of that defensive line, and you're going in with 4 really young, very talented interior defensive linemen, with Alim McNeill coming off a season where he was named first team all-rookie, Levi Onwuzurike, who is finally getting healthy and could be the interior pass rusher we've been needing, Josh Paschal, who we've already mentioned, who is a very good run stopper and a pretty good pass rusher, putting up 5 sacks at Kentucky a season ago, and John Penisini, who is a very good run stopper for the Detroit Lions over his first couple years, is a 6th round pick from the University of Utah. If you want to talk about run stopping downs, they have some pretty good fronts. You could put up Aiden Hutchinson, Alim McNeill, Josh Paschal, Romeo Okwara, Derek Barnes, and Jared Davis as your run stopping front, right? A bunch of really good run stopping defensive linemen and 2 very good run and chase linebackers who are good tacklers, have sideline to sideline speed, and pretty good instincts in the running game. And if you want a pass rushing down, you can have Aiden Hutchinson, Levi Onwuzurike, Josh Paschal, Romeo Okwara, Derek Barnes, and Malcolm Rodriguez if you want to cover, or if you want to blitz your linebackers, Jared Davis and Alex Anzalone can do that. If you want your linebackers to cover, you have Malcolm Rodriguez. If you want your linebackers to pass rush, you have Jared Davis and Alex Anzalone. If you want just a very good all-around linebacker, you have Derek Barnes, the second-year linebacker. There's a ton of versatile tools in this defense that Aaron Glenn and the rest of the coaching staff can utilize in different situations, in different fronts, and in different roles to keep the offense guessing and to force some confusion and turnovers on the defensive side of the football. You know, you want to talk about versatile weapons. Julian Okwara and James Houston are the definition of a versatile weapon. They can rush as an edge rusher, they can rush as a linebacker, they can cover as a linebacker, they can drop off the defensive line into a flat, they can cover in man just a little bit. They can do a ton of different things for your defense. They can do a ton of different things for their defense. They can do a ton of different things for the Lions defense, and they can just keep the quarterback guessing, right? They can line up as an edge rusher and drop off into cover. They can line up as a Mike linebacker and blitz through the A-gap. They can line up at any single position in the front 7 and still do something completely out of the blue that the quarterback and the offense isn't ready for. And having those versatile weapons is very, very key for defenses sometimes, just to get pressures, just to get stunts, right? To confuse the opposing offense. And those guys, I think, are going to have a role in this defense next season. Moving on to the secondary. The secondary is incredibly young and very talented, with some of the best secondary coaches in the NFL coaching up these players. Amani Oruwariye was third in the NFL last season in quarterback rating allowed when targeted. He allowed the third worst quarterback rating when he was targeted a season ago and came away with 6 interceptions. Very easily could have had 8 or 9 interceptions a season ago as well if a couple of tip balls went his way that they did not. He had one versus the Bears that was dropped and broken up that he could have had in the end zone. He had a couple others that he was very close to getting his hands on. He could have easily walked away with 8 to 9 interceptions a season ago, but still finished third in the NFL with 6 interceptions a year ago on a defense that only had 11 interceptions in total. Jeff Okudah, a former third-round pick with a lot of tools, is now going into year 3 with the Detroit Lions and going into year 2 learning under Aaron Glenn and Aubrey Pleasant as his secondary coaches. And I think if anybody's going to save Jeff Okudah's career, it's going to be those two, because those are two of the best defensive back coaches in the NFL, and Jeff Okudah has too much fight, too much grit, and has put in far too much work to fail in the NFL. I truly believe he will have a bounce back season. I think if he can stay healthy for the entirety of the season, he will be a very good, very quality cornerback too for the Detroit Lions. And I have faith that the secondary's coaches can develop him properly, because they did so last season with Jerry Jacobs and AJ Parker, undrafted free agents, and they did so with Ifeatu Melifonwu, a late third-round pick in this same draft class. They helped Will Harris, Amani Oruwariye, and Tracy Walker all see career years a season ago. And again, they helped rookies AJ Parker, Jerry Jacobs, and Ifeatu Melifonwu excel early in their NFL careers. Now you add another starter in Mike Hughes to the defense, who started as the cornerback 1 for the Chiefs a season ago. You add a very good, more experienced player in the draft in Chase Lucas, as well as a couple other secondary members in undrafted free agency. And the Lions secondary is very young, a little bit inexperienced, but very talented, very young, and very deep in the secondary position, right? Kirby Joseph, Deshaun Elliott, Will Harris, and Tracy Walker make up the starting 4 safeties for the Detroit Lions. That's a pretty good young safety core. Even if one of them gets hurt, you are pretty much 3 deep at that position, right? The cornerbacks are 6 or 7 players deep, the oldest of which being Amani Oruwariye, who is still on his rookie contract. This defense, I don't think, is going to have any Pro Bowlers. I don't think this defense is going to have a single All-Pro or a single accolade thrown at them. But I think this defense is going to work better as a full unit than any individual player is going to produce. I think that every single player will be productive in this defense, but I don't think any single player is going to be a Pro Bowler. I doubt any player gets to an All-Pro nod, and I don't think any player gets an accolade or even gets mentioned for a Defensive Player of the Year or a Defensive Rookie of the Year nod. But I think as a whole, this defense can finish top 15. I think they have a lot of really good pieces. I don't think they have a lot of holes left on their roster. I think they have good versatile weapons at linebacker. They have a good rotation as a pass rush, and they have a very good young and deep secondary. They have all the tools to succeed, and they have really good coaches. Their defensive line coach, their secondaries coach, and their linebackers coaches are all going into year 2 with Detroit, year 2 with these players, and showed a lot of really good things from developmental standpoints a season ago in just year 1. You also add to the fact that Aaron Glenn is going into year 2 as a defensive coordinator, whereas in year 1, he had backup caliber, practice squad caliber players playing for him every single week, and had a defense that had, again, 7 teams under 20 points, which is below league average. It's really exciting to think what this coaching staff and what these new weapons can do for the Detroit Lions. With all of that being said, that is all for you guys today. That is a little bit of an early look at some of the defensive players. That is kind of a look at the early defense as a whole. Let me know down in the comments below what defensive player you're most excited to see. Let me know how you think this defense can play in the 2022 season. Do you think they can finish as a top 10, a top 15 defense, or do you think they're going to finish lower in the league yet again like they saw a season ago? I'd be very curious what you guys think, but with all of that being said, that is all for you guys today. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about the 2022 defense. With all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching, and until next time, and as always, go Lions.